Hello, I'm Scott from Healthwatch Kingston. I suppose it's part B of our podcast for bereavement, grief, and loss for adults with autism and ADHD. Joined by Robbie. Robbie, how are you?
I'm fine. Nice to see you again.
And you. Thank you for agreeing to talk. We recorded once last time I was here, and mentioned a couple of things. We're just sort of going into slightly more detail for a couple of minutes. So when we finished recording, you spoke about the death gauge and this idea of trying to plan or
I was trying to predict what order my grandparents were going to die in.
yeah. And then one of the things you mentioned afterwards, actually, you were more upset that the idea that your death gauge didn't work. You were more upset about that than you were with your
I was more obsessed about that than the fact that I'd never see my grandfather again.
yeah. So it's this idea that something that you had in your mind that was going to work didn't
Yeah,
was more upsetting than
than the fact that my
yeah.
dad passed away.
Was it anything that helped you change the way you felt about that?
Unfortunately, I was involved in an incident with the police,
Oh, okay. And then obviously they would have helped you and have got a bit of support through them. That's
I was referred to Kingston Health Home Treatment Team.
oh, okay. And they helped you. They gave some information and
They
advice on.
they did, and then I went to a local recovery college where I did a session on taking back control.
Okay. And that's really helped. That's been helpful.
That really helped me, and also the fact I was more open to talk about and knowing that death gauges don't work.
So okay. So now you talk a bit more about how you're feeling and
Yeah,
okay, that's excellent. Because the other thing you mentioned was that there's a singer that you don't listen to anymore because they died at the same sort of roughly the same time as your granddad.
roughly the same time. Yes, they happen to share the same birthday as well, and they
All
were
right.
exactly 3 years apart.
Okay. So there's, yeah, quite a bit of coincidences or
And she died of the same disease as my grandmother.
oh, okay. So there's lots in and that's just so what happens when they did they ever come on the radio or
Yeah, yes, I always take my iPod to restaurants just in case, because you can't predict who's going to play on the radio. So I always take my iPod in case scary music comes on.
oh, okay. So if you're out and that singer comes on, you'll put something else into your ears.
Yes, because I'm always on heightened alert in case this certain female singer comes in.
Yeah. So it's obviously had a bit of an impact. It's something you're always aware of. You're always
Yeah,
prepared for.
yeah. I always have my iPod with me in case she comes up,
Oh, okay.
and my family can't even mention her name.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And the last thing was you mentioned that I think you mentioned when we were recording, but 79 didn't like the number because that was the age your grandfather was.
Yes.
But with a bit of extra time, you've got sort of past that a little bit.
Yes, ironically, actually, all my his wife, which is my grandmother, she celebrated her 80th birthday last year. So I felt I kind of laid the ghost to rest at the 79.
Oh, okay.
And as an actual fact, I sent her a congratulation cards for outliving her husband.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Fair. Did she appreciate that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very close to
Yeah.
her,
Excellent.
and I'm also very close to my granddad's sister, my great aunt.
Okay. Yeah.
And both my great aunt and my grandmother are very close as well.
Okay. So that's been helpful for you to get past that number.
Absolutely. I mean, my great aunt is 79 in November this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. And how do you feel about that?
I'll send her a congratulation card as well, because obviously her brother was my grandfather. Yeah, and my granddad, who died back in 2018, he was the shortest lived of all my grandparents, ironically.
Oh, okay. And so yeah, I think you said earlier that helps you understand a bit more that plan you tried to make to understand what might
Yes.
happen.
And he taught me the biggest lesson.
Yeah.
He taught me the biggest lesson is live life, and you can't gauge when anyone or predict when anyone's going to die.
That's very true, Robbie.
Thank you for your time.
Robbie, thank you so much. It's brilliant. Thank you very much.